It was a calm Saturday afternoon when James pulled into the driveway of his brand new home. The sun was setting low in the sky, painting streaks of gold across the quiet suburban neighborhood. For James, this moment was personal. He had spent years chasing criminals, going undercover, risking his life for his country. And now, finally, he had bought a home where his family could feel safe, a place where he thought he'd be free from the chaos of the outside world. He parked his sleek black SUV in the driveway, got out, and took a deep breath of fresh air. The smell of cut grass, the sound of sprinklers clicking in the distance, it felt peaceful. He opened the trunk and pulled out a heavy box labeled, "Kitchen." As he carried it up the steps, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" James turned, slightly startled. A woman stood on the sidewalk, her hands planted firmly on her hips. She had short blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, and a clipboard tucked under her arm. She looked like the type of person who was always watching, always judging. James gave a polite nod. "Afternoon. I'm just moving in." But instead of welcoming him, the woman narrowed her eyes. "Moving in? That's impossible. I run the homeowners association here. I know everyone who lives in this neighborhood, and you don't belong here." James put the box down slowly and straightened his posture. He was used to confrontation, but usually from criminals, not suburban neighbors. "Ma'am, with all due respect," he said calmly, "this is my house. I just bought it." The woman scoffed, her voice dripping with arrogance. "No, no, no. You can't just walk up and claim you own property here. This community has standards, and we don't allow strangers to loiter. I'm calling the police." James sighed, shaking his head. He had faced international crime lords, armed gangs, and dangerous fugitives, but somehow, this woman felt like a different kind of trouble. Karen, because that's what the neighbors often called her, pulled out her phone dramatically, loud enough for the whole street to hear. "Hello, yes, I'd like to report a trespasser. A suspicious man is breaking into a home that doesn't belong to him." "Yes, hurry, before he takes something." Within minutes, neighbors peeked from behind curtains. Some whispered to each other, assuming Karen must be right. After all, she was head of the HOA. Surely she knew who belonged and who didn't. James crossed his arms and leaned against his car, watching the scene unfold. He could have stopped this immediately, but something inside him told him to wait. To let Karen dig her own grave with her assumptions. Soon, two police cruisers rolled up, lights flashing. Officers stepped out, hands cautiously near their holsters. Karen waved frantically. "That's him. That's the man. Arrest him before he breaks in." The officers approached James carefully. "Sir, can we see some identification?" James smiled faintly. He'd been in this position before, but never on his own property. "Of course," he said, pulling out his wallet. He flipped it open and handed them a badge. The officers froze. Their eyes widened as the golden emblem gleamed under the fading sunlight. "Federal Bureau of Investigation." The silence was heavy. One officer cleared his throat. Sir, I apologize. Records confirm you are the legal owner of this property. And, well, thank you for your service." Karen's jaw dropped. "What? No, that can't be right. He doesn't look like he belongs here. I know this neighborhood inside and out." James finally stepped forward, his eyes locked on hers. His voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut through her excuses. "That's the problem," he said. "You don't know me. You never even asked. You just assumed I didn't belong, because I don't fit your idea of who should live here." Karen's face flushed red. She stammered, I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." "Protect it from what?" James shot back. "From a man unloading moving boxes into his own home. From someone who spent years protecting this entire country, including people like you." The officers exchanged awkward glances. Neighbors began stepping outside, some embarrassed, some ashamed. A few even whispered apologies. Karen tried to smile nervously. I didn't mean any harm. Just a misunderstanding." James shook his head. "No, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a judgment. And it could have gone very differently. What if those officers hadn't been careful? What if they believed your story without checking? Do you realize how dangerous that is?" Karen swallowed hard, unable to respond. James took a step back, his voice firm. "Let this be the last time you call the cops on someone without cause." Because next time, it might not just be embarrassing, it could be tragic. The officers nodded in agreement. One even turned to Karen. "Ma'am, false reports are a serious offense. Don't let this happen again." And with that, the cruisers drove off. The crowd slowly dispersed, leaving Karen standing there humiliated. James picked up his box, carried it inside, and closed the door behind him. He set it down, exhaled, and looked around his new home. This wasn't the welcome he expected, but he had faced worse. Still, he knew one thing for certain: in this neighborhood, his presence had already changed the story. And nobody would ever forget the day Karen tried to call the cops on the FBI.